Hansel and Gretel in a very sticky situation. In a small hut on the edge of a deep, dark forest lived a poor woodsman named Ewald, his two children, Hansel and Gretel, and their stepmother, Griselda. Times were terribly hard. There was barely enough food for anyone. One night, Griselda spoke to Ewald. "Husband, we will all starve. We must take the children deep into the woods tomorrow and leave them. They will find a way, but we will survive." Ewald wept, but he was too weak to disagree. Hansel and Gretel were awake, listening. Gretel began to cry quietly. Hansel, who was a clever boy, put his arm around his sister. "Hush, Gretel. Do not worry. I have a plan. Just pretend to sleep," he whispered. As soon as the others were asleep, Hansel crept to the door. The moon was bright, and the ground outside shone with pale stones. He filled his pockets until they were heavy and bulged, then slipped back into bed. The next morning, Griselda gave them each a small crust of bread. "Keep it for lunch," she commanded. As they walked deeper into the trees, following Griselda and Ewald, Hansel kept turning his head and secretly dropping one of the white stones. When they reached the deepest part of the wood, Griselda lit a fire. "Now sit here, children, and rest," she said. "We are going deeper to chop wood. We will return for you later." Hansel and Gretel sat by the fire, but soon they fell asleep. When they awoke, the sun had set. The fire had turned to ash, and the forest was terrifyingly dark. "They are gone," Gretel cried, her voice trembling. The sound of hooting owls and rustling leaves made her jump. "Do not fear, little sister," Hansel said, taking her hand. "We just need to wait for the moon to shine." And when the bright, round moon finally rose, it lit up the smooth white pebbles he had dropped, making them glitter like silver coins. Hand in hand, they followed the magical trail, stone after shining stone, all the way home. Ewald was filled with joy when he saw them, hugging them tightly. Griselda, however, grew pale with silent fury. That night, Griselda scolded her husband until he agreed to the awful plan again. She took no chances this time. She locked the door of the hut and barred the window so Hansel could not sneak out. The next morning, Hansel had no pebbles. All he could save was the small crust of bread Griselda gave him. As they walked, he crumbled the dry bread into his pocket, waiting for his chance to leave a new trail. The stepmother led them even further than before, into a place where the trees grew thick and tangled. "This time, you will stay here," Griselda snapped, her voice harsh. Hansel tried to leave his trail, dropping the breadcrumbs one by one. Hansel and Gretel woke up to find the forest dark and silent. "The crumbs!" Hansel cried, running back to the path. But instead of a trail, all they saw was a very large, extremely satisfied robin perched on a branch, cleaning its beak with a cheerful, smug chirp. "Oh, Hansel, what now?" Gretel sighed. "Well," said Hansel, "that robin certainly looks happy. Let's follow the happy things." A bright yellow finch fluttered past, singing a high, cheerful song. They followed the singing finch deeper and deeper, until their noses started twitching with a heavenly smell. "It smells like a whole bakery exploded, with extra sprinkles," Gretel whispered. They turned a corner and saw it, a magnificent mansion made of gingerbread, candy, and frosting. Hansel took a huge, satisfying bite right out of the window frame. Crunch! "Well, hello there, little nibblers," cried a voice. A tiny, round old woman named Frau Glazell, with ridiculously curly red hair and spectacles the size of dinner plates, poked her head out. "You are found. Come in. I have a wonderful, cozy place for you. and all the marshmallow pudding you can eat. Hansel, whose mouth was already full, happily agreed. Hansel's cozy place was a comical little cage built from crisscrossed pretzel rods. Gretel was given a giant, ruffled apron to wear. Every morning, Frau Gazelle, who was a little blind, would tap the cage. "Stick out your finger, little sausage," she'd grumble, squinting through her giant glasses. But Hansel, who had cleverly hidden a dried chicken bone, would poke that out instead. "Still so skinny. Eat more pudding," she'd complain. "I don't care if you're plump. Today, we bake," Frau Gazelle finally snapped. She ordered Gretel to climb into the huge oven to check the temperature. "I don't know how," Gretel whined innocently. "The door is too sticky. Could you show me?" When Frau Gazelle bent down to look, Gretel gave her a quick, gentle nudge, popping the witch right into the oven and propping the door shut with a giant, wobbly stack of lemon meringue pies. Hansel scrambled out of the cage, and they found a silly little chest filled with sparkling, plastic-looking candy coins. They filled their pockets and ran into the woods, following the cheerful song of the little yellow finch, which led them straight home. Ewald, their father, roared with happy tears and squeezed them so tight they nearly popped. Nobody ever saw Griselda again. The silly treasure coins turned out to be more than enough to buy a new, cozy cottage. From then on, their life was filled with sunshine, laughter, and no sticky architecture at all.